Welcome back to Wayne TV. Freddie Pierce here with Michelle Hill. She's our wellness nurse. And of course, as you saw in the beginning, this is Wellness Check with Michelle Hill. Today, Michelle, we're going to be talking about skin cancer. That's also known as what?
Melanoma skin cancer.
Okay.
Detection.
Detection. That's the most important part. We talk about the detection part. Tell us what we're going to be going over today.
Well, we're going to talk a little bit about skin cancer, the types of skin cancers that there are, how to protect yourself, how to examine yourself, and we're going to talk a little bit about these FPCs.
Yeah, I see everything. I don't know if it starts below, does it start below 15 and go on up? Or
It can go as low as 2.
Oh, okay. But that's probably what I wear because I get burned pretty easily if I go outside, but it takes us all the way up. And I know 50 is one that's used quite often. Does it go, well, 70 I see back here. So there's all different ranges.
Well, there's a little bit of regulations with that, and we'll get there.
Okay, sounds good.
We'll talk about it.
Tell us what we're going to do. Well, I know what we're going to discuss, but let's get in the middle of it and see how it goes.
Right. Skin cancer is one of those things that you are doing self-damage at a younger age and not realize it till you get older.
I see.
Then the effects start to show up. 1 in 5 Americans will develop skin cancer in their lifetime.
Oh my goodness. So very dangerous.
It is, and there's 3 main types. There's your basal cell carcinomas, which that is a slow-growing type skin cancer. Then you have your squamous cells. These are a little bit more rapid-growing. And then there's also melanoma, which is the deadliest form.
I see. Okay. Now, what does that mean? What kind
melanoma?
of form? What kind of form did you say it takes? The
Deadliest.
Deadliest form. Okay. The reason I want to make sure we underline that is that I've had several skin cancers taken off, and one of the doctors said that one was like a pre-cancer. And so I know sometimes as you get older, if you've been outside a lot during your lifetime, then you see a lot of those things coming up. You know. So I just want to make sure they understood deadly is a part of skin cancer too, because you think, well, if I get that, just like with me, they can just freeze it off or whatever, but it can be much worse than that, can it?
It can. Like I said, melanoma is the deadliest. There's an acronym you can kind of go by. If you look at your body and you see something that looks abnormal or questionable, there's a mnemonic is A, B, C, D, and E.
Okay, what does those stand for?
A is for asymmetry. So what you're looking for to see if the little lesion is round. Is it clearly round, or is it kind of irregular?
Does it matter if it's round or irregular? I mean, would you be concerned about one more than the other, or?
Well, that brings me into your borders. So the B is for borders.
Oh, B is borders. Okay.
So you do look at the if it's kind of not completely round and it's a little odd shape. That's something you may want to pay attention to.
Okay.
C is the color. With melanoma, your colors tend to variate. You may have like a brown shade on one side of that mole or area that you're looking at, and the other side might turn to a tan, to a pink, to a darker area. So there's a little bit of variation with those colors.
Do you find that I don't know, are moles more susceptible to skin cancers? I know a lot of times you've had moles before, and then that goes that route. Do you find that to be the case, that moles tend to end up having skin cancer? For example, the one that I had removed was not on a mole, but I know other people say that moles have been their situation.
It can be, and it could be just a little lesion that just pops up.
I see.
Over time.
And D is what? Do we have
D is diameter. So
Okay.
they're saying that the diameter of these areas are less than 6 millimeters.
Okay.
So like the end of a eraser on a pencil. And then you're looking at E for evolving.
Oh.
Evolving meaning, is it changing sizes? Is it changing color, shapes?
I see.
And those are telltale signs you really need to get checked out.
Okay, so very quickly again, let's go over A, B, C, D, and E again so everybody makes sure they have it.
A is for symmetry.
Okay.
B is for borders.
Okay.
C is for the color changing.
Okay.
And D is for diameter, and E is for evolving changes.
Well, it's good. It keeps us in alphabetical order, so we'll know
That's right.
exactly how to keep up with it there. What's the next thing we'll look at?
What you can do is to protect yourself.
Okay.
And you can give yourself a self-exam. And the way you should do this is get a full-length mirror.
Okay.
And have a hand mirror as well.
Oh, okay.
So you'll look at you'll stand in front of a full-length mirror, and look at their front side and see if there's any abnormal things that you haven't noticed before or if things are changing. And then you want to turn to the back, and that's when you're going to look at the back of the mirror and have your hand held to see for any changes.
Okay. Now again, I guess you need to, as time goes by, look at your moles carefully, because if they've always been there, for your back or front, you might just think, well, that's always been there, but you need to watch for that A, B, C, D, and E there.
Absolutely.
Sure, sure.
The other thing you want to do is after you stand front and back, then you want to turn side to side.
Okay.
And look at your side body and raise your arms up, look underneath there. And then you want to do a self-exam on your arm. And then you want to bend your arm and look up under here. And then you can take your hand mirror and hold to see up under there.
Another, going back to something I've dealt with before, I had a little spot on my thumb, and they thought that might be a problem, and so again that was frozen off. And then I have one that was on my arm, and then I ended up with, I didn't know it was a precancer, but it was on my ear, and it was just a irritation that just would not go away. And again, I didn't pay it any attention for a long time, which was the wrong thing to do. And I decided to go to the skin doctor, and they said, yes, that's the precancer. And of course, they froze that at the same time. Now, something interesting the doctor told me, he said, do you know why it might be on your left ear versus your right? I said, no. He said, because the sun shines in on your vehicle on the left-hand side.
That's right.
I said, I never thought about that. So any little things like that, even if you think it's like my ear, just a little irritation, if it lasts over a period of time, you really probably need to have that checked out. Tell me what other things we're going to look at after maybe the self-examination.
And then we're going to talk about how to protect yourself from the sun.
Very good. And that comes into what we have here, I guess, too. All right.
There's several things you can do to protect yourself. First of all, you know the sun's rays are the strongest between 10 and 2.
10 and 2.
10 and 2.
Okay.
You want to make sure if you're outside at that time, you're fully protected. And you can wear a hat, sunglasses, or stay in the shade.
Very good. And I guess when people are at the beach, the main thing they more than likely want to do is take away all that shade so that they can get their sun. But I see a lot of young people that are, whether it be the tanning beds or whether it be out in the sun, just basically broiling while they're out there, you know, and at that age, and again, I'm talking about maybe 20s, 30s, even younger, sometimes even older, people think, well, wow, I look really nice. But then when you get in your older age and start having to have these things taken off, then it's a little too late to be thinking about that.
Yes.
So tell me this, what are the different ones that we have up here with us today? I think I'll take them off and just let you explain a little bit. This is Tanning Dry Oil 15. What does that mean?
So what this means is the SPF of that, which is the sun protection factor.
Okay.
So what this means is 15% of this will help protect you.
Okay.
So if you're out in the sun and your skin starts to turn pink and starts to burn about 10 minutes, that means you can stay out there 15 times that 10 minutes that you normally would burn. So it'd be like 150 minutes.
I see.
Of protection.
I see.
But of course, you need to reapply every 2 hours.
Would that be for any tanning protection you're using?
Correct. Any type of tanning protection.
Okay.
There's
what is this one that looks like? Is that for your lips, or what is that for? Under your eyes, your nose? Or
these are for those little tight places like the ears.
Oh yes, that's what I should have been using all these years.
Or the nose, or the cheeks, or
I guess
anywhere.
The protrusions on your face that need to be covered too.
Right.
Folks, remember that, and then you won't have to do what I did there. Yeah, very, very good.
Let me bring an interesting point.
Sure.
A lot of people think the higher the SPF is, the more protection you're going to have. Not true.
Not true. Okay.
With 15% of the, or 15, sun protection factor of 15.
Yes.
You're getting the sun rays come through, and this acts like a filter. So it filters about 93%.
Oh, okay. All right.
So when you have 30,
now, okay, which one is that one?
I don't think
this
I have
one?
a 30.
Okay. All right.
if you use a 30 SPF, you're going to have about 98% filtration blockage. It'll
Okay.
block it. So you
Okay.
can see there's not a lot of difference.
Sure.
So you'll get just as much protection from 15 as you would 30.
Okay. How about if you move up to like 50? What
It's
do you?
recommended it's recommended to use 30 to 50. Anything higher than 50, you're wasting your money.
Oh, okay, because I did also see up here it says 70. So you could buy 70, but 50 does, I guess, the job as
the same thing.
Just the same thing.
Same thing.
Okay. And maybe, I don't know if that's a selling point sometimes, but I think sometimes people would think, oh man, 70, 80, 100, I'll really be protected. But there again, you're at your 50, 30 to 50, you're at the mark there that can work for you. What are the other things we have up here? I see more of the, well, this one says for kids. Is there really any difference in the kids versions?
Not really, but what you want to look for is a broad spectrum.
Oh, okay.
And what broad spectrum is, there are UVA rays and there's UVB rays.
Okay.
The UVA rays are the ones that penetrate deeper into your skin that will cause more damage
I see.
later in years. They also cause wrinkling.
Okay.
The UVB are the ones that burn.
Oh.
So you want to get a good coverage, so make sure it has both UVA and UVB in it.
Okay, and that is actually mentioned on the front of the container somewhere. UVA and
Broad spectrum
okay,
and broad spectrum.
okay, and yeah, I get. And what I was kind of pausing to look at was reading some of them just have just different things. I guess different companies have different things on their labels. I know that now one thing, and I think that's one of the things we have up here that people maybe enjoy better than the lotions themselves is the spray. One works as well as the other. Is that right?
One does, but
Okay.
the spray, you'll have to do it several times. So you got to make sure you got a little bit more layers.
Okay.
Now there's chemical type sunblockers, sunscreens, and then there's regular sun blockers.
Okay.
Sunblockers are more of your
Let's see. That'd be the sun blocker.
zinc oxide.
Oh, okay.
Zinc oxide is what I'm thinking of.
Yeah. Now, is that the one sometimes you'll see the white? I think
Correct.
that's a zinc oxide.
That's a
Yeah.
blocker, so that's
Okay.
like a physical cover.
I see.
And
Okay.
then you have the chemical ones that you will filter the sun
Okay.
instead of blockage.
Very good. Very good. So, when we go in the stores, I guess we shouldn't be intimidated by all the different ones we see there, but just remember some of the highlights that you just mentioned from the ones that we're looking at there. Very
Right.
good. What else do you have for us today that also deals with skin cancer or related to that?
Well, the other thing you need to consider is that everybody's skin burns at a different time frame. Medications can take a factor into that.
So medicines that you're taking like on a regular basis, and again, that's something that I don't think about, is that might have some kind of reaction to even if you're putting the sunscreen on.
Right.
I'll say this, I know one thing that I always try to look at, and at the same time I want everybody to look at, is on their labels. Quite often on their pill bottles, it'll say, be careful, I won't say exactly this, but sun exposure or that sort of thing. And so when it says that, it means that, to be very careful with
Right.
those sorts of things
Right.
there.
There's several medications out there that can cause photosensitive.
All those things we need to be made aware of.
That's why we're doing this.
That's right, exactly. Do you have any other things you want to share with us?
That's all I have today for that. Is,
Okay.
to make sure that you can protect yourself. You can always wear thin clothing as a sun blockage
Okay.
as well.
And one thing I think people need to know also is, and this is something people do spring, fall, some people have winter grass. They need to be protected when they're cutting their lawns also. I've seen some people out in flip-flops and the barest of bare shorts they could wear or at staying cool, and I guess as they work, get their tan at the same time. But when you're doing outdoor chores, you also need to make sure you're protected of these. A lot of times people think about these things only when they're at the coast or dealing with beach type weather.
Right. This should be part of your daily regimen.
Daily regimen.
When you
And
get out of the shower, go ahead and just lather it on, because it takes effect about 20 minutes once you put it on to work before you go
takes
outside.
20 minutes to work.
Yeah.
Okay. Those are
So-
things that I'm not aware of. I'm learning so much being here with Michelle. I'm glad we call it wellness check. That's something that I can figure out too. What
That's
are
right.
the wellness checks?
I do want to speak about one more thing,
Sure.
though, tanning beds.
Yes, please talk about that. Again, when we said earlier, not only younger people, I know young ladies, I had a couple of young ladies at home, my daughters, that before prom time, they wanted to add some color to themselves, you know,
That's
and so
right.
they did that. And I have to admit, eons ago, years ago, I would often get inside of those things. But tell us a little bit
guilty as
about
well.
that.
So the World Health Organization has declared that all indoor tanning devices are in the same category of cancer-causing agents as tobacco.
Oh my gracious!
So
I
you
had
see
no
the
idea.
severity of that.
Sure, sure.
They can, they still put out, it's an uncontrolled type UVA and UVB, so rays that are given.
Yeah.
So there's no real way of knowing if you're getting more than what the sun can give you or not. But it says that what I was reading was, I think it's like 59% of people that expose themselves to indoor tanning
Yes.
increase their risks of skin cancer.
Oh my gracious! You again. We don't think about it from those terms. Most of the time, we're looking at it from a vanity standpoint.
Exactly.
How well do I look, instead of what is it doing to my system? You know, and just so people again underline that in their minds, what with smoking and that, how do they correlate? Did you say?
They're categorized in the cancer agent, category.
Yes. So if you smoke, you need to stop that, as well as if you're in tanning beds, you need to cut that out also. And just, I guess, on a normal basis, just be careful when you're in the sun as a whole, because some people are totally against tanning beds, yet they stay in the sun all the time without their protections, thinking that that's okay. But any amount of these things over a long period of time will take their toll on your health. I found out myself that way. I believe I saw here, is it true that 1 in 5 Americans will develop skin cancer? Is that
In their
right?
lifetime.
Oh my goodness. Again, this is something I didn't know. Anyone can get skin cancer regardless of skin color. That was something I
correct.
was not aware of also. And of course, we talked about the ABCDEs of melanoma, but before we finish up today, I want to make sure that we go over that. But I wanted to ask you if you could tell us a little bit about the things we're looking at here, and I can't even pronounce these, so maybe you can tell me.
You had mentioned earlier you had something removed that the doctor said was precancerous.
Sure.
So what it may have been was actinic keratosis, which these are little dry scaly patches that you may find on your skin.
I see. Okay.
And
That's exactly what it was.
you can scratch the scale off, and in the week you've got it right back, and you need to get it looked at.
That is something that I deal with, and it says people usually with fair skin. I have very fair skin, so that is one thing I deal with. Okay, what is this next one that's listed here?
This is basal cell carcinoma. It's the most common type. It's more of a slower growing
Okay.
type of skin cancer.
And this is occurs people with darker skin, is that correct? Normally with that? Okay. And we have, I think, a couple of more here.
You may have a lot of farmers out in the fields, and then later in life they come back and they have a lot of that.
Oh, I see, because this continues on talking about that. Is that correct? Anything that we need to know from this standpoint? Because are you saying this would be like if a farmer or someone maybe didn't wear a hat all the time?
They're more susceptible to it, but it could also be squamous cell as well.
Oh, okay.
As well.
Tell us about that.
Squamous cell carcinoma is the second most common type. This one is a little bit more rapid growing. You will start to see it kind of start in those stages, as we talked before, the little flecking of the skin,
Sure.
and it's just not getting any better. There's
Okay.
no real way to look at a lesion and determine what it is without having it biopsied and
see.
sent to the pathologist.
Okay. And then we get to, of course, the deadliest of all.
The melanomas, yes. And that's pretty a distinct looking one. It's really dark, variated in color, irregular borders. There's no asymmetry to it.
I see here it says early diagnosis and treatment are crucial because sometimes people don't know that you can die from skin cancer also. Is that correct?
Yes, you sure can. Melanoma. I had lost a cousin in the past
I
with
see.
melanoma. The thing about melanoma is that they, like we talked about, 6 millimeter of a razor, but they can be smaller. And
Oh, okay.
when you're doing your self check for your body, make sure you look between your toes and your fingers
I had not thought about that.
and in your growing area.
Okay. So, of course, areas that you usually wouldn't think cancer would be. I had a friend, as you were mentioning just a moment ago, who had skin cancer on the tip of his toe. And the doctor, it had got far enough along that they wanted to remove the toe, and he said, no, it's just on the tip of my toe. And about 4 or 5 years later, he passed away because it, the cancer traveled through his system, and it was too
Right.
far along at that point.
And when you're looking at a lesion, what we're seeing is just the surface of the lesion. But if you would think like tree roots,
Yes,
these little areas kind of travel down.
I see.
And so you don't know how deep that little area is until you get it biopsied.
I see. Okay. Have we covered most everything we were going to talk about today, or can you think of something else? I do know I would like to do this again because it is so important. If people happen to tune in a little later into our broadcast here today, would you, just before we leave, give us the A, B, C, D, and E's again
Yes.
of skin cancer, or what we need to do in that case?
Yes. So A is for asymmetry. So
Okay.
you want to look at the size and compare the size of the area that you're looking at. And B is for borders.
Okay.
And that is the outline of that little lesion that you're looking at. And so you're looking for irregularities.
I see. Okay.
Is it round? Or you're having a lot of irregularities in it.
Sure.
C is for color changes because you might have like a darkened area within that mole or lesion, and then it might turn to a tan area and variate back to another darker color.
I see. Okay.
D is the diameter. If you think about the end of a pencil eraser, about 5 or 6 millimeters.
Okay.
You're looking for something that size, or it may be smaller.
I see.
And of course, if it's larger, you still want
Sure.
to get checked out as well. E is for evolving, looking for evolving changes. Whether the color's starting to change from what it used to be, the size is getting bigger than what it used to be, the borders are getting a little bit more irregular than what it used to be.
I see.
If you're ever in doubt, get it checked out.
In doubt, check it out. That's a very good way
right.
to keep it in our minds, very much so. And the last thing, we have our different types of tan and sun protection here. As you said, it could go lower than 15. It can go up to 70 or higher. But there again, the 30 to 50% range is, I think you said,
It's recommended.
is the recommended. And again, I want to make sure I mention this one because I had the place on my ear that was maybe a precancer. But for those extremities, for, I guess, your ears, and what other places would you put this?
You could use it on your nose or your
Okay.
cheeks. I like the size of this, especially for little ones. And a lot of times, they get it right under there, and
Sure, right under your eyes.
kind of protect from getting into your
Yes.
eyes. And don't forget the ears on
Yes.
those little ones.
And if you do, I'm glad you mentioned about little ones. If you do have little ones, make sure you take care of them because depending on how little they are, they don't know to do this themselves. One last thing that I was unaware of too is that if you're doing the spray instead of the lotion, you need to do several sprays each
Several
place that you're
layers.
spraying. Several layers of it. Okay. Michelle, it's so good to see you again.
Thank you.
you so much. It's always wonderful to find out all this information because there are many things I don't know, and I'm sure our folks at home watching might be in the same situation. And these things, it sounds dramatic, but they could save a life somewhere
Yes,
down the road.
Yes, melanoma is it's a frightening thing.
And very dangerous at the same
dangerous.
time. So if in doubt, check it out.
That's right.
Sounds good. Michelle, again, thank you for being with us today. As always, this is Wellness Check with Michelle Hill. We'll see you next time. Thanks for watching.